Stop right there. Put your hands where I can see them. What? We're just loading groceries. Store manager says you're shoplifting. Empty your bags. Shoplifting. We have receipts for everything. We just checked out. Let me see those receipts. They're right here. Everything is paid for. These could be fake. Step away from the vehicle. Fake receipts. You can verify the transaction with the cashier. We checked out 7 minutes ago. Mom, stop arguing and comply with instructions. Daddy, why are the police here? It's okay, sweetheart. Go sit in the car. Nobody's getting in that car. Everyone stay where you are. Officer, our children are scared. We've done nothing wrong. We have receipts. We have the credit card statement on my phone. I said hands where I can see them. All of you. Officer Raymond Costa had been with the Scottsdale Police Department for 7 years when he walked into a situation that would destroy his career, cost the city $10.2 million, and traumatize a family whose only crime was shopping while black. He was 31 years old, experienced enough to recognize legitimate receipts and credit card transactions, but apparently convinced that black people in an affluent neighborhood grocery store required aggressive enforcement. One Saturday afternoon at Whole Foods Market in North Scottsdale, he received a call from a store manager reporting suspected shoplifting by a black family loading expensive groceries into a luxury SUV. The family was Dr. Marcus and Jennifer Hayes, both physicians, and their 3 children aged 6, 9, and 11, loading $847 worth of groceries they had purchased 7 minutes earlier with receipts, credit card confirmation, and store security footage documenting the entire transaction. What Costa did next, ordering the entire family including 3 terrified children to stand with hands visible in the parking lot, refusing to verify receipts that were held directly in front of him, detaining them for 52 minutes while running warrant checks and questioning the legitimacy of their credit cards, and allowing a crowd of shoppers to gather and record 3 black children crying while their parents were treated like criminals, would become a national symbol of how racial profiling destroys families and communities. The jury would award $10.2 million, finding that Costa's actions were so egregious and so obviously rooted in racial bias that punitive damages were necessary to send a clear message. A black family of 5, Dr. Marcus Hayes, his wife Dr. Jennifer Hayes, and their 3 children Emma 11, Marcus Jr. 9, and Sophia 6, were loading reusable grocery bags into their black Range Rover in the Whole Foods parking lot on a sunny Saturday afternoon. Receipts were in Jennifer's hand. Shopping bags matched the itemized receipt exactly. 3 children were helping carry lighter bags. No theft, no crime, no violation, just a family putting away groceries after shopping. But Officer Costa saw them through a filter so distorted by assumptions about who belonged in North Scottsdale that he could not process a black family as legitimate customers. Before we continue, where are you watching from? If this is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button. Stories like these show what happens when bias overrides common sense and basic verification, and your support helps us demand accountability from departments that need it most. Whole Foods Market in North Scottsdale sits at the corner of Scottsdale Road and Frank Lloyd Wright Boulevard, anchoring an upscale shopping center in one of Arizona's wealthiest zip codes. The store caters to an affluent clientele with organic produce, imported cheeses, grass-fed meats, and specialty items that can easily push shopping bills into the hundreds of dollars. The parking lot reflects the neighborhood demographics with luxury vehicles, European imports, and high-end SUVs occupying most spaces. The area surrounding the store is quintessential North Scottsdale. Multi-million-dollar homes cascade up the foothills of the McDowell Mountains. Country clubs dot the landscape. The median household income exceeds $120,000. The population is approximately 87% white, 8% Hispanic, 3% Asian, and less than 2% black. It was 3:45 p.m. on a Saturday in June. The temperature hovered around 106 degrees, typical for Arizona summer, but hot enough that most shoppers moved quickly between the air-conditioned store and their air-conditioned vehicles. The parking lot was moderately busy with the weekend shopping crowd. Families loaded groceries. Couples navigated carts through the rows of parked cars. Shoppers returned carts to designated collection areas. The atmosphere was casual and unhurried. This was not a high-crime area. This was not a neighborhood where shoplifting was a significant concern. Whole Foods employed security personnel and loss prevention staff who monitored high-value items and known shoplifters. The store had comprehensive security camera coverage documenting every transaction, every customer interaction, every movement through the aisles. The parking lot itself was well maintained and clearly marked. Handicapped spaces near the entrance. Designated pickup spots for online orders. Cart return stations every few rows. Adequate lighting even though it was mid-afternoon. Security cameras mounted on light poles capturing multiple angles. This was the kind of place where families shopped on Saturday afternoons without worry, where children helped carry groceries, where the biggest concern was whether items would melt before customers got home. The kind of environment where police presence was rare because problems were rarer. Dr. Marcus Hayes had parked his Range Rover in a spot near the store entrance at 3:15 p.m. He and his family had spent approximately 40 minutes shopping, checking out at register for at 3:38 p.m., and had been loading groceries into their vehicle for approximately 7 minutes, when Officer Raymond Costa arrived in response to a call that would change all of their lives. Dr. Marcus Hayes had been an emergency medicine physician at Mayo Clinic Hospital in Phoenix for 9 years. 9 years of overnight shifts, trauma responses, and life or death decisions that required instant judgment and absolute precision. He specialized in critical care and trauma medicine, the kind of high-pressure emergency work that demanded both technical excellence and calm under chaos. He had completed his undergraduate degree at Howard University, his medical degree at Emory University School of Medicine, and his emergency medicine residency at Johns Hopkins Hospital. He had published research on trauma protocols in urban emergency departments. His colleagues called him unflappable. His residents called him the attending who never panicked. Dr. Jennifer Hayes had been a pediatric oncologist at Phoenix Children's Hospital for 7 years. 7 years of treating children with cancer, delivering difficult diagnoses to families, and fighting for every patient with experimental treatments and clinical trials. She had graduated from Spelman College, completed medical school at University of Pennsylvania, and finished her pediatric oncology fellowship at Children's Hospital of Philadelphia. She had received grants from the National Cancer Institute for her research on childhood leukemia treatments. Her patients' families called her their angel. Her colleagues called her relentless in pursuing every possible treatment option. Together, Marcus and Jennifer Hayes represented everything the American dream supposedly promised to Black physicians at the top of their fields. Combined annual income exceeding $600,000. A home in the Paradise Valley area valued at $1.8 million. 3 children in private schools. Active involvement in their church and community organizations. No criminal records. No traffic violations beyond a parking ticket. Model citizens by any objective measure. Their children were Emma, 11 years old and in 6th grade at a private preparatory academy, where she maintained a 4.0 grade point average and played violin in the youth orchestra. Marcus Jr., 9 years old and in 4th grade, who excelled at mathematics and competed in youth soccer leagues. Sophia, 6 years old and in 1st grade, who loved reading and had recently started ballet classes. At 42 and 39 years old respectively, Marcus and Jennifer Hayes were exactly where they had worked to be. They had built successful careers. They had raised children in a stable, loving home. They had achieved financial security. They had moved to North Scottsdale specifically for the schools, the safety, and the community. That Saturday, the Hayes family had planned a routine weekend activity. Marcus had worked a night shift at Mayo Clinic, finishing his rotation at 7 a.m. He had come home, slept until noon, and spent the afternoon with his family. Jennifer had the weekend off from the hospital. The children had finished their Saturday activities, including Emma's violin lesson, Marcus Jr., soccer practice, and Sophia's ballet class. At 3 p.m., the family decided to shop for groceries for the upcoming week. They drove to Whole Foods, their usual store, where they shopped every weekend. Marcus drove their black Range Rover, a vehicle they had purchased 2 years earlier and chosen specifically for its safety ratings and space for the children. They arrived at 3:15 p.m. and entered the store together. Marcus pushed one cart. Emma helped her mother with a second cart. The children were well behaved, accustomed to helping with family errands, taught to stay close and not run through the store. They shopped for approximately 40 minutes, moving methodically through the aisles. Organic produce, fresh seafood for dinner, grass-fed beef for grilling, whole grain bread, Greek yogurt, fresh berries, almond milk, quinoa, items that reflected their family's healthy eating habits and also happened to be expensive given Whole Foods' premium pricing. Marcus wore khaki shorts, a polo shirt, and casual loafers. Professional casual. Jennifer wore a sundress and sandals. The children wore summer clothes, shorts and t-shirts. Nothing about their appearance suggested anything other than an upper-middle-class family on a weekend shopping trip. They checked out at register for at 3:38 p.m. The cashier, A young woman named Ashley Rodriguez, who would later provide testimony, remembered them clearly. Friendly family, well-behaved children, no issues with payment. The transaction totaled $847.32, paid with a Chase Sapphire Reserve credit card in Marcus Hayes' name. The receipt printed. Jennifer took it and placed it in her purse. Ashley bagged their groceries in reusable bags the family had brought. Marcus and Emma pushed the carts toward the exit. Jennifer held Sophia's hand. Marcus Jr. walked beside his father, asking if he could help carry bags to the car. Normal family interaction. Nothing suspicious. Nothing unusual. They exited the store at 3:41 p.m., walking across the parking lot toward their Range Rover. Security cameras captured the entire walk. No furtive movements. No attempts to conceal anything. Just a family of 5 moving groceries from the store to their vehicle. They reached the Range Rover at 3:43 p.m. Marcus opened the rear cargo area. The children began helping transfer bags from the carts to the vehicle. Jennifer stood nearby, organizing where items would go to prevent crushing bread or bruising fruit. They looked like what they were, a successful family grocery shopping on a Saturday afternoon. They had done nothing to attract attention. They had violated no law, no policy, no norm. But inside the store, someone was watching them, and that person had decided they did not belong. Raymond Costa was 31 years old. He had been with the Scottsdale Police Department for 7 years, assigned to the Desert Mountain precinct that covered North Scottsdale's affluent neighborhoods and commercial districts. He was aggressive, reactive, and convinced that his instincts about suspicious behavior were reliable. His supervisors described him in evaluations as proactive in enforcement, but occasionally lacking judgment in determining which situations required police intervention. In 7 years, Costa had compiled a record that should have triggered immediate supervisory review and intervention. 12 complaints. 12. 10 of them involved allegations of racial profiling or excessive response to situations involving people of color in North Scottsdale. 3 had been sustained, resulting in written reprimands and mandatory diversity training. The other 9 had been closed as not sustained or unfounded despite witness statements and video evidence contradicting Costa's reports. Costa had a pattern. He stopped Black and Hispanic residents in North Scottsdale and questioned whether they belonged there. He assumed people of color in expensive vehicles had stolen them or were drug dealers. He responded to minor calls involving people of color with backup units and aggressive postures that he never employed with white residents. A black teenager walking through a parking lot at Kierland Commons was stopped, questioned about gang affiliation, and searched because Costa found his clothing suspicious. The teenager was a straight-A student heading to Barnes and Noble to buy textbooks. Complaint filed. Training assigned. A Hispanic family having a picnic at McCormick Ranch was approached by Costa and questioned about their immigration status despite all being natural-born U.S. citizens. Costa had received a call from a resident who thought they looked out of place. Complaint filed. Training assigned. An Indian couple leaving a jewelry store with a shopping bag was stopped by Costa and questioned about whether they had stolen the items inside despite having a receipt and the jeweler personally vouching for them. Complaint filed. Training assigned. The pattern was documented extensively. Internal Affairs had investigated each complaint. Supervisors had noted concerns in performance reviews. Costa had completed implicit bias training 3 separate times. But he remained on patrol, responding to calls, making stops, accumulating complaints that disappeared into the same ineffective cycle of training and reassignment. His supervisors knew he had issues with racial profiling. They knew he over-responded to calls involving people of color. But Costa also had high activity numbers. He made arrests. He wrote citations. He responded to calls quickly. In a department that valued productivity metrics, Costa's numbers looked good enough to overlook the pattern of complaints. On that Saturday afternoon at 3:45 p.m., Costa was on routine patrol when he received a call from Whole Foods Security. Store manager requesting officer response for suspected shoplifting. Black family, 5 individuals, loading groceries into Range Rover. High-dollar items, manager suspicious. The call came from David Brennan, the 29-year-old assistant store manager, who had been watching the Hayes family since they entered the store. Brennan had followed them through the aisles, noting the expensive items in their carts, and thinking the total bill seemed unusually high. He had watched them check out, seen the $847 transaction, and then watched them walk to the parking lot. In Brennan's mind, something did not add up. A black family with 3 children spending $847 at Whole Foods in North Scottsdale seemed suspicious. The Range Rover seemed too expensive. The groceries seemed too high-end. He had convinced himself they must be using stolen credit cards or fraudulent payment methods. He had called the non-emergency police line and reported suspected shoplifting in progress. The dispatcher asked standard questions. Did you witness theft? No, but the transaction seems suspicious. Do they have receipts? They went through checkout, but something feels wrong. Are they currently committing a crime? They might be using stolen credit cards. The call was logged as suspicious activity, possible fraud. Costa responded. When Costa arrived, his mind immediately filled in a familiar narrative. Black family, expensive vehicle, high-dollar groceries, affluent white neighborhood. In his mind, that combination required investigation. It did not matter that they had checked out through a register. It did not matter that Whole Foods had security cameras documenting the entire transaction. It did not matter that the family was calmly loading groceries. Costa saw what he expected to see, people who did not belong, engaging in behavior that required police intervention. He parked his patrol car directly behind the Range Rover, blocking it in. He got out quickly, his hand moving instinctively toward his weapon. The Hayes family was placing the last bags in their vehicle when they noticed the police car. Marcus looked up, initially assuming the officer was responding to something else in the parking lot. Then Costa started walking directly toward them. Do you think officers with multiple racial profiling complaints should patrol diverse neighborhoods or affluent areas with minimal diversity? Drop your answer below. Marcus Hayes was closing the rear cargo door of the Range Rover when he saw the police officer approaching rapidly. His first thought was concern for his children. His second thought was the immediate recognition of what was happening because he had experienced variations of this scenario his entire life. Stop right there. Put your hands where I can see them. Marcus turned fully toward the officer, keeping his hands visible and his voice calm. What? We're just loading groceries. Costa's hand remained near his weapon. Store manager says you're shoplifting. Empty your bags. Jennifer stepped forward from the passenger side of the vehicle, her voice controlled but firm. Shoplifting. We have receipts for everything. We just checked out. Let me see those receipts. Jennifer reached into her purse slowly, making her movements deliberate. She pulled out the Whole Foods receipt and held it toward Costa. They're right here. Everything is paid for. You can see the itemized list and the credit card transaction. Costa glanced at the receipt without really examining it. These could be fake. Step away from the vehicle. Marcus felt his pulse quicken, but kept his voice level. Fake receipts. Officer, you can verify the transaction with the cashier. We checked out at register for 7 minutes ago. Her name is Ashley. She's still working. You can see the security footage of us shopping and checking out. Costa's jaw tightened. Mum, stop arguing and comply with instructions. Sophia, the 6-year-old, had been standing near her mother. She moved closer, her voice small and frightened. Daddy, why are the police here? Marcus knelt down to her level, his voice gentle. It's okay, sweetheart. Go sit in the car. Costa raised his voice. Nobody's getting in that car. Everyone stay where you are. Emma, the 1-year-old, had been helping load groceries. She froze, her eyes wide. Marcus Jr., 9 years old, moved closer to his father instinctively. Jennifer's voice had an edge now. Officer, our children are scared. We've done nothing wrong. We have receipts. I can show you the credit card statement on my phone right now. You can verify the transaction in under a minute. I said hands where I can see them. All of you. This is where assumptions override evidence. Officer Raymond Costa had responded to a call about suspected shoplifting. When he arrived, he saw a black family loading groceries into an expensive vehicle. In his mind, that confirmed the suspicion. The receipt Jennifer held could be examined in seconds to verify every item in the vehicle. The credit card transaction could be confirmed with one phone call to Whole Foods management. The security footage could be reviewed immediately. But Costa was not interested in verification. He was interested in investigation, interrogation, and control. Marcus made a decision. He would comply completely, document everything, and protect his children from escalation. All right, officer, my hands are visible. My wife's hands are visible. Our children are standing still. What do you need from us? Costa pulled out his radio. I need backup at Whole Foods, Scottsdale, and Frank Lloyd Wright. 5 subjects, possible shoplifting and fraud. Jennifer's voice rose despite her efforts to stay calm. Fraud. We paid with our credit card. Here, look at my phone. I can pull up the Chase app right now and show you the transaction posted 7 minutes ago. Don't reach for anything. I'm telling you what I can show you. Our credit card. Our account. The transaction that Whole Foods just processed. A crowd was gathering. Other shoppers had stopped to watch. Phones came out. People stood at a distance, recording. Marcus spoke loudly enough for the growing audience to hear. Officer, we are Dr. Marcus Hayes and Dr. Jennifer Hayes. We're physicians. We live in Paradise Valley. We shop here every weekend. We have receipts for everything in our vehicle. We have credit card confirmation. Our 3 children are terrified. Please verify our information and let us go home. Costa ignored him. He walked to the Range Rover and looked inside the cargo area at the grocery bags. Then he walked around the vehicle, peering through the windows. Emma started crying quietly. Marcus Jr. put his arm around his younger sister Sophia, who was trembling. Jennifer called out to her daughter, "Emma baby, it's going to be okay. We haven't done anything wrong." Costa returned to face Marcus. "I need to see identification from both of you. And I need the keys to this vehicle." Marcus pulled his wallet from his pocket slowly. "Here's my driver's license. Here's my medical license. Here's my Mayo Clinic ID badge." Costa took the IDs but did not examine them closely. "Mom, your identification." Jennifer reached into her purse. "Here's my license. Here's my hospital ID. Here's our insurance card for this vehicle showing we own it." A second patrol car arrived. Officer Sarah Mitchell, a 7-year veteran, approached the scene. She surveyed the situation quickly. Family of 5 including 3 young children. Groceries and vehicle. Receipts presented. No apparent crime in progress. "Costa, what do we have?" "Possible shoplifting. Possible credit card fraud." Manager called it in. Mitchell looked at the receipts still in Jennifer's hand. "Can I see those?" Jennifer handed them over, relief briefly crossing her face at the sight of a second officer who might bring reason. Mitchell examined the receipt carefully. "This is itemized. Timestamp 3:38 p.m. Total $847.32. Chase credit card ending in 4782. Everything matches what I see in the vehicle." She looked at Costa. "These receipts are legitimate. What's the basis for detention?" The manager reported suspicious activity. Mitchell pulled out her phone and called Whole Foods management. She spoke for 2 minutes, then hung up. Management confirms the transaction. They have security footage of the family shopping and checking out. The cashier remembers them. There's no theft. There's no fraud. Costa's face flushed. "The manager called us." Mitchell's voice was firm. The assistant manager made an assumption that was wrong. "These are paying customers with receipts. We need to clear this immediately." She turned to Marcus and Jennifer. "I apologize for this. You're free to go." But Costa was not finished. "I still need to run warrant checks." Mitchell's eyes narrowed. "For what?" "They've committed no crime. They've shown identification. They've proven they paid for their groceries. Standard procedure for any stop. This is not a traffic stop. This is not an arrest. This is a mistake that needs to end now." Should officers face discipline for refusing to accept receipts and credit card verification from paying customers? Let me know what you think. Costa backed down reluctantly, but pulled out his radio. "Run wants and warrants. 2 subjects. Marcus Hayes, Jennifer Hayes." The Hayes children were crying now. All 3. Emma was sobbing. Marcus Jr. had tears streaming down his face. Sophia was shaking uncontrollably. Other shoppers in the parking lot were shouting, "This is wrong. They showed you receipts. Let them go. You're traumatizing those children." Marcus knelt down and gathered his children close. "I'm so sorry guys. This is not right. This should not be happening. But we're going to be okay." The warrant checks came back. No warrants. No criminal history. Clean records. Mitchell stepped between Costa and the family. "You're clear to leave." "Again, I apologize for this." Marcus stood, his children clinging to him. "We were detained for what? Shopping? Buying groceries? Having the wrong skin color in North Scottsdale?" Mitchell had no answer. Jennifer's hands were shaking as she helped the children into the Range Rover. Emma was hyperventilating. Sophia would not stop crying. Marcus Jr. kept asking why the police thought they were criminals. The entire detention had lasted 52 minutes. 52 minutes of public humiliation. 52 minutes of their children learning that being black meant being treated as criminals for shopping. 52 minutes recorded on dozens of phones and uploaded to social media before the Hayes family even pulled out of the parking lot. Officer Sarah Mitchell watched the Hayes family drive away, 3 traumatized children visible through the rear windows, and turned to Costa with barely controlled anger. "What was that?" Costa was defensive. "I responded to a manager's call about suspicious activity." Suspicious activity? They were loading groceries. They had receipts. They had credit card confirmation. "You detained a family with 3 young children for almost an hour over nothing." The manager said shoplifting. Mitchell pulled out her phone and played the recorded conversation with Whole Foods management. The assistant manager admitted he had no evidence of theft. He had called police because he thought a black family spending $847 seemed suspicious. Those were his exact words. Suspicious because they were black. I responded to a legitimate call. You escalated a situation that required no police presence. You refused to accept receipts that clearly documented payment. You demanded backup for a family loading groceries. You ran warrant checks on physicians with no criminal history. You traumatized 3 children in front of dozens of witnesses. Costa had no response. Mitchell's supervisor, Sergeant James Crawford, arrived within 10 minutes, summoned by Mitchell's call requesting immediate supervisory response. Crawford was a 19-year veteran who had been reviewing Raymond Costa's complaint file for months and recommending action that had never been taken. He listened to Mitchell's account. He reviewed the receipts. He watched the security footage that Whole Foods management provided showing the Hayes family shopping, checking out, and loading groceries. He looked at the dozens of videos already circulating on social media showing 3 black children crying while their parents were detained. Costa, why wasn't this resolved the moment you saw legitimate receipts? The manager reported fraud. The manager reported his own bias. There was no fraud. There was no theft. There was a black family shopping at Whole Foods, and somehow that became a police matter requiring 50 minutes of detention. I followed procedure. Crawford's voice dropped to something cold. Your procedure traumatized children. Your procedure ignored evidence. Your procedure just cost this department millions of dollars, and what's left of our community trust. He pulled out his phone and made 2 calls. The first to Scottsdale Police Department's Internal Affairs Division. The second to the department's Office of Professional Standards. Then he turned back to Costa. Badge and weapon. Administrative leave effective immediately. Ops investigation starts Monday. Sergeant, I was responding to a call. You were profiling a family, and this is your 12th complaint in 7 years. 10 involving racial profiling. We've given you training. We've given you counseling. We've given you chances. You just gave a family of 5 reasons to sue us and win. Costa handed over his badge and service weapon, his hands shaking slightly. Crawford turned to Mitchell. Write a detailed report. Everything. Timeline, statements, evidence, witness information. This is going to end up in federal court, and I want documentation that at least one officer tried to stop it. Mitchell nodded. Already started, Sergeant. Crawford drove to the Hayes family's home that evening. He personally delivered an apology on behalf of the department and provided his direct contact information for any follow-up the family needed. Marcus and Jennifer Hayes accepted the apology, but made clear they would be pursuing legal action. Their children, Crawford noted, were still crying 3 hours after the incident ended. Should departments face automatic federal oversight after multiple sustained profiling complaints against the same officer? Drop your answer. Within 4 hours, videos from the Whole Foods parking lot had gone viral across every social media platform. Multiple angles showing Officer Costa refusing to accept receipts, demanding backup, running warrant checks, and 3 young black children crying in fear while their parents were treated like criminals for grocery shopping. Black family detained at Whole Foods despite showing receipts. Arizona police traumatized children over alleged grocery theft that never happened. Scottsdale officers' 12th profiling complaint caught on camera. The outrage was immediate and sustained. The NAACP issued a statement condemning the detention and announcing they would file amicus briefs in any subsequent litigation. The American Medical Association released a statement supporting the Hayes family and noting that 2 physicians had been treated as criminals in front of their children. Phoenix Children's Hospital and Mayo Clinic both issued statements supporting their physicians and expressing concern about the incident. Whole Foods corporate headquarters issued an immediate apology and announced that Assistant Manager David Brennan had been placed on administrative leave pending investigation. Within 72 hours, Brennan was terminated. The company released a statement acknowledging that an employee had called police based on racial bias and announcing comprehensive anti-discrimination training for all staff. Policy changes requiring evidence of actual criminal activity before police contact, and a commitment to fostering inclusive shopping environments. But the videos had already told the story that mattered. 3 children learning in real time that their race made them suspects. Parents powerless to protect their children from state-sanctioned humiliation. A community watching their police department treat a black family as criminals for the offense of shopping while prosperous. Officer Raymond Costa's career imploded within days. His name trended nationally. The Scottsdale Police Department's handling of his 12 previous complaints became front-page news. Internal documents obtained through public records requests revealed that supervisors had recommended Costa's removal from patrol duties 3 separate times over 5 years. Each recommendation had been overruled by higher command staff who cited his arrest and citation numbers as evidence of productivity. Costa's attorney released a brief statement claiming Costa had responded appropriately to a store manager's complaint and followed department procedures. The statement was met with widespread criticism as videos circulated showing Costa refusing to verify receipts and traumatizing children. Dr. Marcus and Dr. Jennifer Hayes contacted the law firm of Morrison, Chen and Rodriguez LLP, specialists in civil rights litigation who had successfully litigated similar cases against law enforcement agencies throughout Arizona. The firm took the case immediately, recognizing both the strength of the evidence and the broader implications for racial profiling in affluent communities. The federal lawsuit was filed 6 weeks after the incident in the United States District Court for the District of Arizona. The complaint named Officer Raymond Costa individually, Officer Sarah Mitchell for failure to intervene immediately, Sergeant James Crawford for supervisory failure despite knowledge of Costa's pattern, the Scottsdale Police Department for deliberate indifference to constitutional rights, and the City of Scottsdale. The complaint included Costa's complete disciplinary record, 12 complaints over 7 years, 10 alleging racial profiling, 3 sustained, all 10 documented with witness statements and evidence that supervisors had reviewed and minimized. The pattern was meticulously documented in the city's own files. The complaint also included psychological evaluations of Emma, Marcus Jr., and Sophia Hayes conducted by child trauma specialists. Emma had developed anxiety about leaving the house. Marcus Jr. had nightmares about police. Sophia had stopped speaking for 3 days after the incident and required ongoing therapy. The City of Scottsdale's attorneys reviewed the evidence and reached the same conclusion within months: indefensible. The videos showed everything. The receipts proved payment. The security footage documented legitimate shopping. The warrant checks came back clean. And 3 children's trauma was visible on camera for millions to witness. The case settled 16 months after the incident. $10.2 million paid by the City of Scottsdale to the Hayes family. $4.7 million in compensatory damages divided equally among the 5 family members. $5.5 million in punitive damages designed to punish the department's deliberate indifference to Costa's pattern of discrimination. Officer Raymond Costa was terminated 11 weeks after the incident. The termination letter was final and unambiguous. Officer Costa detained a family without reasonable suspicion, refused to verify evidence of payment held directly before him, and traumatized 3 minor children in front of numerous witnesses. His 12 prior complaints demonstrate a pattern of racial profiling that this department's training interventions failed to correct. His employment is terminated with cause effective immediately. Costa's name was entered into the National Decertification Index. His law enforcement career ended at 31 years old. Assistant store manager David Brennan faced his own consequences. Terminated from Whole Foods, named in the lawsuit, and identified nationally as the person whose racial bias initiated the incident. Brennan issued a public apology that was widely viewed as inadequate. "I made a terrible assumption based on unconscious bias. I'm deeply sorry for the trauma I caused the Hayes family." Sergeant James Crawford received a formal letter of reprimand for failing to remove Costa from patrol despite documented concerns. He remained employed, but his career advancement ended. Officer Sarah Mitchell received commendation for her attempts to de-escalate and end the unlawful detention, though critics noted she could have intervened more forcefully and earlier. Dr. Marcus Hayes and Dr. Jennifer Hayes testified before the Scottsdale City Council during discussions of police reform measures prompted by their case. Their testimony was broadcast live and covered extensively by national media. Marcus spoke first, his voice steady but weighted with controlled emotion. "My name is Dr. Marcus Hayes. I'm an emergency medicine physician at Mayo Clinic. I've spent 9 years saving lives in one of the nation's top hospitals. I have 3 children. Emma is 11. Marcus Jr. is 9. Sophia is 6. On June 15th, I took my family grocery shopping at Whole Foods on a Saturday afternoon. We spent $847 on food for the week. We checked out at Register 4. We had receipts. We had credit card confirmation. We had security footage of our entire shopping trip." He paused, his jaw tightening. "Officer Raymond Costa detained us for 52 minutes in that parking lot. He refused to look at our receipts. He called backup. He ran warrant checks. He treated us like criminals in front of dozens of people. And worst of all, he did it in front of our children." Jennifer continued, her voice breaking slightly. "My daughter Emma developed anxiety so severe she missed 2 weeks of school. My son Marcus Jr. has nightmares about police officers. My youngest, Sophia, stopped speaking for 3 days. She's 6 years old, and she learned that being black means being treated as a criminal for buying groceries with your parents. She paused to compose herself. We are physicians. We save lives. We pay taxes. We contribute to our community. We've never broken a law. And none of that mattered because Officer Costa saw a black family in North Scottsdale and decided we didn't belong. 12 complaints. Officer Costa had 12 complaints over 7 years. 10 involved racial profiling. Your department knew he was a problem. Your supervisors recommended his removal 3 times. But he stayed on patrol because his arrest numbers looked good. Marcus leaned forward, his voice strengthening. This settlement, $10.2 million, is significant. It's one of the largest in Scottsdale history. But it doesn't undo 52 minutes of terror for our children. It doesn't erase the recordings of Sophia crying that millions of people watched online. It doesn't restore our sense of safety in our own community. He looked directly at the council members. Here's what I want you to understand. We had every advantage. We're doctors. We had receipts. We had credit cards. We had witnesses. We had security footage. We had everything right. And it still took 52 minutes and a second officer's intervention to end our detention. If this can happen to us, what happens to black families without resources? What happens to people who can't afford lawyers? What happens to families who don't have viral videos to prove their innocence? Jennifer concluded. Your police department documented Officer Costa's pattern for 7 years and did nothing. 12 complaints, training after training. Nothing changed. It only stopped because he finally targeted a family with the resources to fight back and children whose trauma was captured on camera. That's not accountability. That's luck. Bad luck for us. Worse luck for every family who came before us and wasn't believed. The council chamber was silent. Should cities lose qualified immunity protections for officers with documented patterns of discrimination? Let me know what you think. This was not about one Saturday afternoon in June. This was about a department that documented 12 complaints against Raymond Costa over 7 years and responded with training instead of termination. Costa's record told a story his supervisors acknowledged but failed to address. 12 complaints, 10 involving racial profiling, 3 sustained. 9 others closed despite witness statements, video evidence, and clear patterns of discriminatory policing. The documentation was extensive and damning. Supervisors recommended Costa's removal from patrol 3 separate times. Each recommendation was overruled by command staff who cited his productivity metrics, his arrest numbers, his citation statistics, all while ignoring the consistent pattern of targeting people of color in affluent areas. The Scottsdale Police Department had a choice at Complaint 3, at Complaint 6, at Complaint 9. They chose Costa's statistics over community safety. They chose training over accountability. They chose to protect an officer's career over protecting the constitutional rights of residents. Raymond Costa's career is over. That's consequence. The city paid $10.2 million. That's accountability. David Brennan was fired from Whole Foods. That's corporate responsibility. But settlements and terminations do not undo childhood trauma. They do not erase the memory of being treated as criminals in front of strangers. They do not restore a 6-year-old's ability to feel safe in public spaces. The real question is what changes now. Does Scottsdale finally terminate officers after 5 complaints instead of 12? Do supervisors finally face real consequences when their recommendations to remove problem officers are ignored by command staff? Does the department finally acknowledge that arrest statistics mean nothing when those arrests target people for the crime of existing while black? Because if we do not dismantle the system that kept Costa on patrol despite 12 documented complaints and 3 supervisory recommendations for removal, if we do not address the culture that values productivity over constitutional rights, then we are simply waiting for the next officer, the next family, the next set of traumatized children. The Scottsdale Police Department announced reforms after the Hayes settlement: immediate desk duty for any officer with 3 sustained complaints or 5 total complaints alleging discrimination, automatic termination review at 5 complaints regardless of sustained status, supervisory accountability measures requiring command staff to justify in writing any decision to override removal recommendations, quarterly demographic analysis of all traffic stops and detentions with disparate impact reviews, mandatory body camera activation for all civilian contacts with real-time supervisory review, independent civilian oversight board with subpoena authority and binding recommendations, and trauma-informed training specifically addressing the impact of police actions on children. These reforms exist because the Hayes family had resources to fight back and children whose trauma was documented on viral video. They would not exist if Costa had detained a family without medical degrees, without financial resources, without videos. They are reactive. They are the 10-point to $1 million wake-up call. Comment if you believe this should be federal law. Officers with 5 complaints alleging racial profiling or discrimination, regardless of sustained findings, must be permanently removed from law enforcement positions. And if you think these stories expose patterns that departments document but ignore until lawsuits force change, hit that subscribe button. We are not stopping. We are going to keep showing what happens when complaint files document problems that departments refuse to address. We are going to keep demanding that patterns trigger consequences before they traumatize children. We are going to keep fighting for the Hayes family and every family that shops, drives, walks, or exists while Black in communities that treat their presence as probable cause. This is not about one officer or one family. This is about all of us and the policing culture we tolerate. It is about whether 12 complaints mean anything. It is about whether protecting children from trauma matters when those children are Black. It is about whether communities have the right to demand that officers who repeatedly violate constitutional rights lose the authority to carry badges and guns.